Hi folks, and welcome to the next in our series of Dharma Outreach, Dharma Talks. We don't have a guest this week, so unfortunately folks, you're stuck with me and Marshall. And this week we're going to take the opportunity to maybe give you a little bit of a rundown of how things have been going with the whole Dharma Outreach project, and some of the positives, and I guess also some of the negatives as well. I mean, all in all, I think we've done really well. I do. Although I think sometimes I'm a bit hard on myself about how much progress we've made, but there's certainly been a lot of positives. I don't know how you feel about it, Marshall, but I certainly think there's been more positives than there has been negatives, to be honest with you.
Yeah, talking about positives and negatives, number one, it's just really exciting to be able to discuss this and talk about it and hash it out. No script. No script as usual. Woo!
There's never any script.
And when it comes to Buddha Dharma and the stuff that we were exposed to and learned about in practice and utilize in our lives, and taking that and transferring it to people that might never have an opportunity to learn about it. And, the majority of people in society still think that the Buddha is the guy that you give money to at the Chinese food restaurant, It's been, I feel like it's been very profitable in a spiritual sense for many. And, I'd like you to talk about your experiences, because you've been doing the most of the outreach and going out. I've been with you a few times.
Yeah, I have. I'm well known for ranting and going on about the negatives, so I'm gonna start with the positives. I've found that there's been an amazing amount of people being prepared to listen and to take on and see the relevance of the practicalities of what is really very basic Dharma teachings, and that's really all I ever set out to do. Now, actually, some folks have taken that further. And that was really all. That was my whole intention when I came away from what was a pretty, really was. I was pretty content in Thailand. It's not a bad life, Funnily enough, we were speaking at a detox on Sunday, and the group that we were speaking to had been watching I think it was Ajahn Brahm, they said. And now this kind of pleased me that they'd even, and the same group had asked us if we could bring more books, because we've also got the book donation scheme under not strictly under Dharma Outreach, but under Tiffany's, so we always try and take Dharma-based books. So I kind of like to think that's how they found it. And this was separate to us. But one of the guys said how hard the life of a Theravada monk must be. And I kind of contradicted that, because I don't actually think that's particularly true in a lot of cases, to be honest with you. I think that certainly I guess compared to Western standards, and I kind of eased into it because I'd already been living in Thailand for a couple of years. But I really didn't find it that hard at all. So that was kind of interesting on a couple of levels. But these folks have kind of, some people have picked this whole very basic, and we really only talking about the Dharma from coming from a recovery aspect. That's all I ever intended doing. And so it's usually very basic. It's usually Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, precepts. Anything else, then people can go further, and people do, and people make further inquiries. But the response has been positive, almost entirely. We've only really had one negative response, and that was kind of a misunderstanding at an organisation. That was kind of a misunderstanding, because we're not trying to take the place of anything else. We're not trying to take the place of what really are considered to be more Christian-based recovery programs. We're just trying to show folks some supplements or alternatives, all depending on how they want to look at it. So yeah, in general, it's been very positive. Certainly I was quite upset when I physically couldn't manage to do St Francis House anymore in the middle of Boston. It was just, I had to kind of admit that it was just too much. The walking was just too much for me to get there. But that went very well, and I've offered to do that virtually for them, and we'll see if they come back with that. So everything has been positive. People are going away with something in their hand as well. So they're going away with, we use refuge recovery books because that's what we have. So we haven't got any particular kind of axe to grind against any other Buddhist-based programs, or any other program at all, actually. So they're usually in fairly short supply, because we were lucky enough to be gifted a whole box, and now we're going to have to try and fundraise for some more. So they're very popular, and Marshall has made a terrific connection with Temple.
Yep. The Temple Forest Monastery, the Theravadan, Thai Theravadan up in New Hampshire, which is really beautiful.
And thanks to Marshall, and it is thanks to Marshall, because I'll quite freely admit, I kind of have an axe to grind with some of these more traditional organisations, and that's my issue. But thanks to Marshall, they've been very kind, and they've given us almost unlimited amounts of, we've got boxes and boxes of books in Marshall's trunk, and that lets people not only listen to us for an hour, or listen to me for an hour at these places, but it also gives them something to take away. And I've found that people do actually take them away and look at them, because they've told me when I've gone back on different occasions to both of my regular Sundays. So yeah, I mean, the response from people, and these are folks that are really, they're at the very, very early stages of recovery, and the response has been great. It's working. I'm obviously going to say that I think my way of doing things works, i.e. my kind of my attempt at being as approachable as I can. And in fact, I'm not even going to say any more about that because I'm convinced it works. So I really don't have too much of a. I'm really not interested in listening too much to what anyone else has to say about that, because the folks that are there and that are struggling, they appreciate it. That's good enough for me. That's kind of where I am with it.
Yeah, and it's so like it seems like you found, and I've seen myself, is people appreciate when you bring something to them, information, and from like the psychological level, from the basics, it's understood that decision making is built off of learning. And not only are you bringing them, the story of your experience in connection with, Buddhism, you're also giving them the opportunity to read and learn for themselves. It's right effort, right? We talk about different stages of the path, and I definitely can imagine your life now, especially over like the last 7-8 months with us, isn't as as good as it was over in Thailand, and having like some of the it is maybe not.
I think I'm gonna. I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm gonna. It's completely different, and I'm gonna go back to the passage that I can never remember from the Vinaya. I actually found the number of it, and I've put it on my phone. That basically says, "Let no two of you go in the same direction," and that to me is not a geographical direction.
Okay.
So, yes, I was very content. Yes, life was pretty easy. But it is, for me, it's much more fulfilling now to be able to give that back to others. That giving back would not have been the same if and people will say, well, yes, but then you could stay in a monastery and you would be, I have 10 years, 10 Vassa now, you would be a senior monk and you could teach other monks. There's plenty of people doing that. And my thing was always that to give back to where I came from. I was a hopeless alcoholic and drug addict.
Yeah, well, you and I both at some point. And you're giving people, not only are you sharing with them your experience, but you're giving them the opportunity to learn on their own. And that's one of the most effective methods in helping people overcome their struggles in life, just in general. Just that activity alone is you give them the books, you give them the information. And what's it like when we bring those books? Like, what happens when people are there?
There's, the certain copies of certain books. There's not quite fights over, but there is a clamour to get certain books, and we're trying to get more of those as we can. But people genuinely are interested, and that can only be a good thing for those folks, but also for I'm not trying to kind of, I'm not trying to preach or convert anyone. It's the last thing I want to do. But it's also good for, as people probably know, I've even stopped calling myself a Buddhist. I will say I'm a Dharma practitioner because I really do concentrate on the practicalities. But it can only help in general with people getting access to these Dharma teachings and then going from there if they choose to, and some people do. We mentioned the Temple Forest in New Hampshire. We had someone very interested in actually visiting there when they got out of treatment. So we're doing it in a different way. All I can say is if you don't like the way we do it, step aside. Don't get in the way of folks that are actually doing some good. If it's not for you, it's not for you. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But don't stand in the way of folks that are actually doing something on the ground.
empowerment's been like, it's been a big word that we kick around a lot. And like another word that, you know, I use a lot is self-efficacy. The self-efficacy of people being able to grow and expand and work on the things in their lives that might be troubling them, or the things they want to improve on. And it seems like what you're saying about being able to talk to people about like the benefits, the practicalities, and being able to offer, you know, information, wisdom, and, you know, knowledge in the form of books and things, and connecting them, you know how we do, we connect to resources and things. That being like the foundation not only of the Dharma Outreach project, but the whole organization in general, expanding out that way. What's some of the feedback that you've gotten from, you know, some of the people that you've talked to or worked with, and their challenges in life, and how they might have thought about the Dharma and maybe how they could utilize it and things of that nature?
Well, I mean, the vast majority of the folks that I talk with, when I'm when I'm giving talks, the vast majority of those folks really have very limited, if any, knowledge of certainly of the Dharma. They have this. Some folks have got this kind of very broad idea of Buddhism, which is usually a fat jolly fella in a Chinese restaurant, and that's not. I mean, it's true. That's just the way it is. That's kind of where. And, you know, I mean, I've found people to be very, very receptive. I'm big on participation. I'm big on people taking part, whether it's just a 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute question and answer session at the end, whatever it is. I'm big on people putting some effort in. And these folks put a lot of effort in it's been almost entirely positive from those folks on the ground. Now, I'm obviously going to get this in. I'm going to get a bit of a rant in, and I'll keep it as short as I can. Now, I'm just going to say I think it's a shame that positivity hasn't come across from the establishment, shall we say. But, you know, I don't want to go on too much about that. I always knew that was not going to be the case. I knew there wasn't going to be that support. And that's just the way it is. But it's very strange to me when, you know, we talk about these basic tenets of Buddhism with, you know, compassion and loving kindness, and a lot of these organisations seem to be saying this is mine, and we're hanging on to it here, and we don't really want to share it with you, whether that be a space, whether that be a...
Well, no, they literally did that. That was one of our experiences. And I apologize. Shame on me. I definitely stepped out of character on one of those situations. But that was the experience, wasn't it?
Yeah. And on top of that, you've got these, you've got these kind of, what should we call them? These amateur gatekeepers, come Dharma police, that want to, that want to tell other folks, exactly what this should look like. And, I'm not going to be too hard on them. They're obviously struggling as well, but they can, they can just step back and get out of the way, because I'm sorry, but they'll either step back and get out of my way, or I'll step on them, because those people are stopping people that have limited knowledge, no knowledge. They're actually giving them the wrong impression. And I won't stand for that, and I do it quite vocally, and it's just the way it is.
Well, come to find out with that incident, is you weren't the only person to have that that same opinion. And there's a saying a man once said, I can't remember his name, but I remember the saying. He said, if you're going to go out to fight for freedom and justice, then make sure you don't wear your best trousers.
So, I mean, the more I'm thinking about it, sat here, you know, we've done remarkably well. And I have to say, and I'm going to say this again, I said it on Sunday when we were speaking, none of this would have happened if it wasn't for Marshall. None of this would have happened. I tried I tried with certain folks when I was given the place in Michigan, and I was just shot down. You know, in fact, I was told you can't have those people here, and you know, those people are me. I am those people. I am those people. You know, I don't. Lots of folks don't like the fact that I'm very open about the fact that I was a alcoholic, drug using, drug dealing criminal. And I'm very open about that, and apparently I'm not supposed to say that, but I'll say that every day, all day, because it's the truth. It's where you know, it's where I came from. It's where I came from. And it's also thanks to, I'm going to stick with the Dharma, thanks to the Dharma and some individuals who saw something in me in Thailand there. So really my home temple in Thailand. And it's thanks to those folks that I'm here now. It's thanks to them. You know, probably not too dramatic to say, it's thanks to them I'm not either dead or in prison. So, I think it's only right that I do what I can to give other people that opportunity to see those, to see the practicality of those teachings. You know, I don't care if people are bowing once or 3 times. I don't care whether they're lighting 1 stick of incense, 2, 3, or whether the candles are the wrong colour. I could not care less. People want to get into that, fine. I don't have anything against it. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying I really don't care about it. It's the actual practicalities of the teachings that can make such a huge difference to, you know, can make a huge difference to our lives if we take them on board. And everyone deserves that. And unfortunately, everyone doesn't get the chance to experience that.
Well, now they do. Now everybody does get the chance. Well, and I think there's a lot to be said too, with, you know, what you said, you know, about your history, which is similar to mine in a lot of senses. And the thing that we bring from that is that inquisitive mind, that questioning mind, that rebellious nature of not just accepting everything on face value, but always digging deeper. And the deeper you dig into the Dharma, the more you find out how applicable it is to life and how accurate it is, you know, in comparison to a lot of other things like science and, you know, and biology and the things that, you know, people have really dug into that conform to the reality of our experience. And then you take that and then you utilize that, like the diamond. They call it the Diamond Sutra. It's a, you know, big sutra, and I'm not going to compare, but I like the analogy of it's like the diamond. It cuts through the bullshit, and it gives people that ability to have a deeper experience in their own lives, to experience what true reality tastes like, what it feels like. And, you know, that was my experience. And that's how I came to the Dharma in a similar sense as you did, is I really was inquiring and trying to understand what reality means and what it is. And, you know, I don't have the, you know, words to explain it, but I do know that using Buddhism as a tool, you know, like a diamond-edged drill bit, it cuts through a lot of the bullshit that's on the surface there, and you can see a little bit what's underneath, and the more you drill down, the more you're going to see.
Yeah, and it's the whole practicality of it. You know, it's the whole practicality of it. So, you know, I guess I really feel I should mention the 5th precept. So avoid the use of intoxicants. When you look at that, or when someone like me looks at it, someone that has had excessive use of intoxicants, it's not just something that you say, right, okay, I'm not supposed to do that, so I'm not going to do it, because as I was hearing some, I don't know who it was, and I'm not going to go too far into it, some Burmese monk saying, yes, well, if you do this, you'll go to hell. Well, that's about, I've been to hell, by the way. I actually felt I should have told him that. I've been there, and I know lots of other people have been there. So, so it's not a case of it being being used, the precepts being used as a stick to beat yourself or anyone else with. You look at that, and of course I had lots of time in Thailand to contemplate a lot of these things, and the precepts were one of them that I spent a lot of time on. And you basically, for me, you look at the times in your life where you weren't using excessively, and the times in life when you were, and there's no comparison. They're the best times for you and everyone around you were when you were keeping to that precept. The worst times are when you weren't. It's practicality. It's nothing to do with it's nothing to do with heaven, hell, or anything in between, or anything else. It's just practicality, you know. And that's the whole beauty of it, and exactly what we're trying to just make accessible to people, you know. And I think we're doing pretty well. We're certainly doing pretty well, Boston and North Shore, and it's like this week North Shore, and you know, next week we'll be taking over the world, I guess.
Yeah. It's really been a wonderful ride, and seeing, you know, giving people different options, and learning about the world and different spiritual practices, and the expansion of Tiffany's Recovery incorporated around engaging community stakeholders in helping with, like, especially like the opioid crisis and the increase in overdose, which is tragic, and, you know, letting people know that there's a lot out there when it comes to self-development, spiritual development, education. The world is a big place, and it really takes people like ourselves to open it up, to open the doors for people that might not have that option otherwise. And, you know, some people see that as a benefit. Some people really aren't interested in that at all, and that's fine, because that's not our concern. Our concern is, you know, the people that we serve, and we serve people like ourselves that have struggled on some level with mental health, addiction, you know, different forms of housing or food insecurity and things of that nature. And, you know, we've done what we said we were going to do, and that's all that really matters. You know, at the end of the day, that's how I feel. It's we do the best we can, and we just keep going, and, you know, and then we pick up, you know, kind of like a bus hurtling down the road, you know, like one of them hippie buses. You know, we pick up hitchhikers along the way.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and we certainly won't be stopping doing it for the foreseeable future. That's for sure. So we're getting tight for time. So what I do want to say is, though, folks, that you know, Tiffany's Recovery is the umbrella under which Dharma Outreach is able to work. And folks, it's a grassroots non-profit. Yeah, so any support that you could possibly give to Tiffany's in the way of whether it be helping out with certain events, whether it be being prepared to do maybe even virtual speaking commitments, things like anything at all, we would certainly be very grateful for. And of course, anyone that is interested in helping us out with the kind of Buddhist aspect of Dharma outreach would certainly would welcome that as well. But that is a shameless plug that I wanted to get in before we.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it. Could always use it, yeah. Thank you.
So I think unless you've got anything else, Marshall, I think on that we're just about at time. So.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for paying attention, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, folks.